Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I'm turning tree painting upside down and showing you a method for painting watercolor trees that I've just invented. It's simple, it's relaxing, and yet it gives the most wonderfully whimsical results. We all struggle with trees and their branches, and you'll love how this method takes away all those tricky moments. Add a few easy whimsical birds and your tree will be full of life in just a few minutes. So make yourself comfortable, get your paints ready, and let's discover this unique new approach together. Hi everyone, Diane here, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a sideways step away from Christmas preparations, cards and so on, and I'm going to take another little foray into autumn. I know in many parts of the Northern Hemisphere we still have lovely colour on the trees and so on and so forth, so this is a kind of little celebration of that. And I'm hoping that you'll enjoy it. So I've been doing some little practice pieces, and this is one of them here. Didn't really complete it. I think there's one on the previous page too, which is a bit more done. A few mistakes here and so on and so forth. But this is what we're kind of aiming at. It's basically a kind of skeleton of tree branches, and then we're going to actually individually paint on some of the leaves. And I know that traditionally in the old-fashioned world of watercolor, people used to say, don't try and paint every leaf on the tree, but it's quite fun actually to try to have a go at that. So that's what we're going to do today. Now I've taken all morning preparing my palette. What I've got here is, this is my Paul Rubens set of 48, which is available on Amazon from Paul Rubens and is quite a nice set. It's got lots of colors in it. That's a good thing, isn't it? But as you know, I like to work with a limited palette, which means before I start painting, I select out the colors that I'm going to use. I may add one or two extras as things go along, but in general, I stick with the original, usually about 8, around about there. And often when I use my Kuretake ones, I pull them out of the box and I put them in a different palette so that they're easily accessible. Now with these silly little pieces, which it's not my favorite way of painting, I have to admit, but they are good paints, so I want to use them occasionally. What I've done here to make this easier for me, as I've said before, when they're dark like this, you don't really know what they're going to paint up like, do you? I mean, what color is that anyway? Okay, turns out it's not what you might expect. So what I do is I do a little swatch for the painting in hand. Now, I looked at this and I said, okay, I'm going to be using this section here. Okay, and so I went along, started at the top. I know this is a bit back to front, but bear with me. Anyway, this one here is transparent orange, and that's a nice color for autumn leaves, so I'm going to put that there. Let's move that out the way a minute, actually, because it's casting a shadow. Transparent orange, and then the next one's cadmium orange, and that's a little bit more opaque, so I'm not going to use that one. I've got chrome orange here, which is this color. Might use that, but I'm thinking, don't think so. This one, which looks like dark brown, is actually transparent yellow, which is a lovely color. So I'm selecting those two, and I've put a little tick here for me, and later on I underlined it. So transparent orange and transparent yellow. And I went along there, painting them all out in little swatches and choosing the ones I was going to use. So I've got transparent orange, transparent yellow, golden yellow ochre is this one, okay, and Indian yellow and cadmium yellow, those are my orange and yellows. Then on the next row down, we've got burnt umber here, which I'm not going to use because it looks too much like black. Van Dyke brown, that's going to be the brown for the trunk. Burnt sienna, that's also going to be in the trunk and in the leaves. Agate brown is the same pretty much as this. They're both mixtures of colors and they're very similar, so I'll stick with burnt sienna, which is more transparent. Then we've got Indian red, which is an opaque brownish red, reddish brown. So we'll do that. We could instead have taken Venetian red, but I'm not keen on the Venetian red in this palette. It's a bit too sticky for my liking. And then just on top of that, lamp black and maybe 1 or 2 leaves in olive green, if I feel it needs a bit of a contrast to the reddishness is. So that's what we're going to do. First of all, we need to draw our tree a little bit. And today I'm going to be doing it in an unusual way. I've already started with the center, and I'll show you what I did. I've put in down here a line, and I will make this available as a sketch for you to download, a downloadable sketch on our website as well. Put in the ground just a little bit above the bottom of the paper. I've put washi tape around it. I'm going to put some fallen leaves down here as well. That's why I've given myself a bit of space. It's always best not to start right at the bottom of the piece of paper because that's, it's a little bit, it's nice to have a bit of space around it. So I put that down there, and then I started up here, started at the top. And it's a bit like when I paint my birds, I often start with the beak. In fact, I almost always do. So I brought this line down here to the bottom. Then I went back up the top again, and I'm bringing this line down. It parts company with its friend there and comes over here and then comes down to the ground. And then for the branches, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to position my pencil away from the trunk, and then I'm going to come in with a nice curvy line and join the trunk, and then put the next part of that branch in like that. This is a very different way of painting a tree from the normal way, which is to start at the trunk and come out. And I might do some of that as well, but I want this to be a little bit whimsical and for the tree branches to be a little bit curvaceous, I think is what I want to say. So I'm just doing these twiggy things like that, and we'll come up here to this one and bring that down. And I always find drawing trees really stressful because they never seem to work out the way I want them to. And I suddenly thought of this idea, and I thought that might just work. So we're trying it out here together. And this way you can give yourself a nice kind of outer silhouette, that's the word. So I'm just putting the main branches in like this, coming down. And this one up here, and then we'll have another one over here. Okay, and then your subsidiary, so to speak, branches, you can put in between. Minor branches, or, what did we used to call them when you had my pencil slipped there, so I'm just, sub-branch. I used to work in a bank, and there were the major branches, and then there were the sub-branches. So these are the sub-branches. Okay, and then what we'll do is we will paint this section, and then I'll add some smaller twiglets. Do you remember twiglets, those things with Marmite? Like this, okay? So that's easier. Once you've got your framework you can hang your branches on, then you can come in and put in your twiglets. Okay? So we'll do it something like this. Right, so what I'm going to do is the structure, the framework, the skeleton, upon which we will hang our tree branches and leaves. Let's start with Van Dyke Brown, which is this one here. I haven't really got a perfect arrangement here. I have to keep putting my hand over the painting to pick up the paint so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to mix a bit of burnt sienna into that. I'm very grateful for my little swatch because it's not that easy to find what you're doing. So we'll just paint this in. I'm keeping the tree trunk relatively slim at the bottom. That's just an aesthetic choice, really. And it soon goes slimmer still as we go up. And then, I'm using a reasonably sharp pointed round brush. I think this is about a size 6. Which will actually go to quite a nice point. And I'm going to drop in some more slightly thicker paint on the right hand side here, which will give a subtle shadow. And then we'll carry on painting out the branches along the lines that we had. Doesn't matter if you go off the line a little bit. And if you want to put slightly more realistic branches rather than the ones so smooth as I've done, you can just make them a little bit more like that, if you see what I mean. You know, make them a bit stiffer, like real wood is. So it's up to you how much you give them a curve, a smooth curve, or whether you want to, make them a bit more real. Okay, so that side's now done. The basic part of it is done. So I'm just going to pop in here and put in this branch, just the outline, the main branch of this tree. And then we'll come down from up here. You can either paint down from the tip of the branch, or else you can go from the trunk up. It's up to you. I think this is a moderately relaxing way of doing trees. I hope you'll enjoy this. It also kind of a little bit teaches you, although I know that that's not something we necessarily want to do, to learn, but it does indicate, in a way, the structure of a tree, doesn't it? Okay, so that's the framework, the skeleton of the tree, and now we need to put some more branches on. And I'm just going to, I think I'll start at the top here, and I'm just going to bring them out like this. These are stylized, if you see what I mean. That is to say, they don't look really very real, although your overall effect when you're done is of something that definitely looks like a tree. That's the idea anyway. We're trying to get there. If you are changing your style a little bit, like I am really, I suppose, you're going to be learning as you go along. And you will probably be a bit annoyed with yourself sometimes. I know I often am. When things don't quite go the way you meant them to go. I don't know whether I mentioned this before. I don't think I did, but when you're painting something that goes to a fine point with a brush this kind of size, you just make the lighter, finer lines just by lifting your brush up. And you can get a really fine line. You don't need to go to a smaller brush to get fine lines. And you can go either from the tip or from the base. So you can start, if you just put your brush down really gently, and then just gently increase, or you can go the other way and just lift off. Or you don't have to do either of those things. If you prefer to have your, well, if you are not, if you're not very steady sometimes, it's easier just to let them go wonky, and that's fun too. Whatever you enjoy doing and whatever you find easiest. Oops, I nearly put my brush in my glass of water there. These paints do soften up a lot. You have to be a little bit careful with the quantity because you can touch the brush on the paint and find yourself picking up a vast amount of paint. Okay, now I'm right-handed, so it's a bit tricky doing the other side, you know, because you can't see what you're doing. And it doesn't really work coming down. Awkward, to say the least. Why can't we just have trees that only have branches on one side? Wouldn't that be a good idea? This is where if you're going to put your foot in it, so to speak, or your hand, or your fingers, this is where it's going to happen when you change sides. Ah, gosh, it's getting warm in here again. I've had to close the door because of the echo. I'm sorry about the echo. We need to get some more soft furnishings in here. Shopping in Cairo is not what it used to be, which is A, a plus, and B, a minus. We have Amazon here, but it's a joke. It's a joke. You know what happens? This is something I didn't realize. This is what happens with Amazon around the world. When you come to a third world country, you're not supposed to say that, am I? I'll get myself shadow banned if I'm not careful. When you come to a country, a wonderful country like Egypt, which is full of fascinating history and wonderful habits and customs that you would hardly be able to imagine if you tried. One of the things that happens, of course, on Amazon everywhere is you can, when you list something, you can choose to list it using somebody else's photo and description. And the idea is you do that if you're selling the same thing. You know, it's not rocket science, is it? But in Egypt, they've decided to take that as an opportunity to use somebody else's description and their photograph and then sell something completely different. So, you know, I was looking for macrame cord the other day to use as piping cord, because to get piping cord here would be really beyond to a loser. So I was looking for macrame cord, and you find these lovely photos of German macrame cord and all these German people saying how wonderful it is. And then you look at the reviews from Egypt, and they all say, not as shown in the photo. This came to me, instead of 300 meters, it came in 4 pieces held together with sellotape and stuff like that. So you have to be really careful here when you're buying things on Amazon. I mean, we bought a Christmas tree the other day, and I said, this is it, it's the end, it's the last. It came in 2 boxes, or it should have done, but we only got 1 box, so we only got half a tree. Anyway, who am I to say? Just checking that my phone is still recording, which it is. So here we are, we have our skeleton of our tree, and now what we have to do is start putting the leaves on. Okay, now it's time for the next step, and we're going to start putting some leaves on the tree. And what I'm going to do is we're going to make the leaves sort of disproportionately bigger than they are in real life. I'm just needing my little swatch here. So I think I'll start with the lightest, or shall I start with the darkest? You have a choice. I'm going to do a bit of overlapping probably. I think I'll start with the transparent orange, okay, which is, needless to say, a relatively transparent colour. And I think my idea would be to just scatter the leaves around. I probably do, let's say, 3 or 4 at a time on different branches. And then I might think about coming in then with something a little bit darker. So for example, burnt sienna, which is this one here. And then on some of them, drop in a little bit of burnt sienna near the twig and just draw in a little joining twig, a twiglet. Okay, so something like that. And then we could add that burnt sienna I had in my brush to what's to hang on to the orange, the transparent orange, and that will give us a slightly darker colour. And I could then take some of the Van Dyke brown, mix that in, and we'll get another slightly different shade of brown. And then we might pick up again a bit more and just drop in like that the joining part with twiglet. And then I think I might go for some transparent yellow, which is this one. And the best thing to do when you're doing this is just to go by intuition. That's the word. Get plenty of this yellow because it's not terribly strong. Like I say, they're obviously disproportionately big. But that makes them kind of fun, I think. You can do one at a time if you want. Got all the time in the world. And you can do some that aren't even attached, and attach them when you get there. Put them on in different angles. And the good thing about this is, one of the good things about this is that you're going to learn how to mix your colours, and you're going to learn water control. Yeah. I think actually a thought that's just occurred to me when you're learning to paint is not to try to learn everything all at once. You know, is it really necessary to learn about water control and composition at the same time? Or is it more sensible to say, okay, well, in this painting, I'm going to take a tracing or something like that and use somebody else's composition, and I'm going to concentrate on mixing up my colours cleanly and purely, or I'm going to concentrate on balancing the use of water or something like that, you know, or I'm going to concentrate on improving my brush strokes, controlling my brush, things like that, or I'm going to use wet in this painting, not trying to do 100 different things well in the same painting. Does that sound like that makes some kind of sense? I'm going to pick up the transparent orange again, go back to that one. Just going to put a bit more orange on these ones because I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. I don't think that orange is drying quite as vibrantly as I would like it to, so I'm going to give it a second coat. And when you put the little joining bits in, little stems or stalks or whatever they are, try to do it while the paint is still a little bit damp. I think that's a really good idea. And then you get a nice kind of little runny thing going on. This is the colour I want in here, isn't it? And since I've got a nice lot of brown on my brush, I'm going to just come down here and do a few in the brown colour. I'm thinking I need a nice yellow one there, up here. And they don't all need to join on, and you know why? Because in the autumn, a lot of leaves fall off the trees, don't they? So you can just indicate that they're falling. That can have a little bit of brown. Now I'm going to put some birds in here, and I'm going to put them in silhouette. So we'll go for black, which is in the fourth one along here. And I'll just put that in there. And since we're coming down, I'm going to put this one in here, this one. I did draw it first of all before coming to paint it, just to be on the safe side, you know how it is. So he's standing there on a branch. He's got a little bit of pencil behind his legs, so when he's nice and dry, I will clean that off with an eraser. Okay, so let's come over here. I keep hearing those words in my head. Don't paint all the leaves on a tree. Don't try to paint all the leaves on a tree. But, you know, why not? We're not painting all of them, are we, by any manner of means? And this is brilliant practice for brush control and, you know, making your leaf-like. Just these nice oval leaves. And we've kind of made the skeleton, so to speak, of the tree a little bit sparse or scanty, but I think that's actually quite good, because then the benefit is that you can see the leaves more. All right, burnt sienna. Let's use a bit more burnt sienna for some of these leaves. And Van Dyke brown. If you use your Van Dyke brown quite thickly, you'll get a very dark brown like that, which is nice. And if you put it next to or near to a yellow, it will particularly show up. I'm going to put some orange in between. These two. One reason for putting the birds in, drawing them in first, is because then I don't have to worry about finding spaces for them after I've done all the leaves, which is sometimes a bit of a problem. I think I'd better paint a few more of them in now. I've got this one up here, and here's our black. I've got a couple in the sky up there that we'll put in a minute. The thing with bird silhouettes is that they're really very simple. You don't need to do much to get a convincing bird. What you need to do is practice and try to imagine. I think that that's what distinguishes an artist from a non-artist. I don't really consider myself a natural artist. If you want to see a natural artist at work, have a look at Aaron Blaise, previously known as a Disney animator, who is not only a wonderful animation artist, but also a brilliant natural world artist. He's someone who I would say, without any shadow of a doubt, personally, my opinion would be that he was born an artist. And although I think everyone should do art, I don't think everyone is born with a natural gift, any more than people are born necessarily with a gift for mathematics, but there are certain people, or music. You know, think of Alma Deutscher, the young English, now she's a composer, she's an incredible musician. We're not all capable of that, oddly enough. Doesn't mean to say we shouldn't learn to play the piano, but it does mean that some people are born with a gift. God-given gift, I think. And well, I don't think I was born with a gift. I think I was born with a desire to be able to paint. And so I tried hard, like a lot of us do, to learn. It didn't come naturally. But you can all learn. We can all learn calculus if we really want to, and we can all learn to paint. We can all play the piano if we want to, and we can all sing, however badly. So, I mean, I can play a few things on the piano, but badly. Occasionally I have a go and I enjoy it. And I'm glad my parents sent me for music lessons, even though they knew full well. My mother had a gift for music. She had a gift for playing the piano. I'm sure some of you know people like this. She was born into a very poor family. My parents both were. But she used to play the piano accordion. They didn't have a piano. She got hold of a second-hand piano accordion. If you know what that is, we used to also call them kind of squeeze box type thing. And she could play anything on that thing. And when we did finally get a piano, she was able to play that as if she'd been born with one in her hand. Amazing. She definitely had a gift. And I think Tamsin has got her gift for music from my mother. But we don't have any artists in our family, or never, not as far as I know anyway. Keeping on, we're filling up. We've got all our birds in place now. Some of them haven't got any legs, but I'll put those in with a pen probably. And then as we're going along, you'll probably be thinking to yourself, am I going to put veins on these leaves, or am I going to leave them plain? Am I going to embellish them. I'm going to put center veins in, maybe, like that. Or are we just going to leave them as they are? You do have the choice. Oh yes, I wanted to mention a couple of people while I'm painting, because I said the other day, did I write it down? Yes, okay. I said in the last video that I was going to try to mention other ladies who paint or who do other things that we might be interested in, our crew, our community, our friends on here. And I've mentioned Aaron Blaze. I don't think he really needs my help, but I'd love you to go and have a look at him and listen also to his, I think it's his most recent video where he's talking about the reason why we paint. And I found that very moving, actually, listening to that. I thought it was a wonderful take, and he shows us some paintings that he did and some drawings when he went for a hike in the Denali Valley. Is it Denali? I'm sure you know better than me where that is and what it is, but it looked beautiful, but very wild and rugged. And he went up there with some friends, hoping to encounter, as they did, bears and elk and moose and all those sorts of things. And he sketched them, and especially the bears, wonderful. And then he made a film. He worked for Disney. I mean, imagine, oh my God, that was my dream when I was a child. I just remembered. Yeah, to be able to draw cartoons for a living, that would have been so good. Anyway, he did work for Disney, and he did all of these wonderful things. And he made a cartoon based on cartoon film, which looks as if it's lovely. I must try and find it and have a look at it. Brother Bear, it's called. Have you seen it? What was I saying? Yeah, the story and the actual images were taken from his sketchbook that he did when he was actually literally inches from these bears. The mother bear came out with her cubs, stood and looked at them, and he said, we had a tense moment. And then she turned around and ran away. Probably just as worried about them as they were worried about her, I should think, and probably rightly so. Because you can never trust a human, sadly. Now, you could carry on like this forever and a day, but I think probably you've seen enough of me painting leaves. I think there's probably a few more over here than there are over here. I could come in again to the I was thinking bears, to the birds, and make them a bit darker, because as they dry, these aren't the absolute best paints. If they were, you wouldn't get so much fade back when they dried. But they're quite good, and they're not that expensive for 48 different colours. It's not too bad. Oh, I've just seen I've missed a twig. I think we need one here, a little one perhaps. And then I'm going to take some of the transparent orange again, and we'll do a few falling down. And put some brown in there too. Oops, it's a bit too much. just use our brush as a vacuum cleaner. We come back in with a bit more orange. There we are. Oh yeah, so the other lady I wanted to mention is someone called, what does she call her? It is a Sarah, and she does knitting and crochet, and she's in the Netherlands, and she's not got a very big channel, but it's very nice. And I think you should go and have a look at that one. I'll put the link in the description below. Just getting my white pen out, so it's ready. And we will put some down here on the floor. I was thinking I might put some green leaves in, but I'll tell you what I am going to do. I'm not going to put a lot of green leaves in, but I'm going to put one. And I'm going to put it here. Here. And then we'll see whether we like that. And if we do, we might possibly put in another one up here. Maybe we'll be brave and put one over here. And if we can find any spaces where we've got twiglets without leaves, we can pop them in on those. There's one. Okay, and we'll just put some more brown leaves coming down. Perhaps we'll go for a bit more dark. It's small. Perhaps we'll put one or two down here. I've decided I'm not going to put any embellishments on any of these, but I will give the birds that are relatively visible, I'll just give them an eye dot like that. And these ones even in this distance here. So there we are. Some of the brown leaves might be a good place to do a few veins. I could go on like this all day. This is a painting that you could literally come back to tomorrow and do a bit more on, and I don't think you'd regret it. So there we are. I'm going to call that a day. Let me just grab my pen and put in the legs of the birds that don't have them yet. And is he dry? I'm not sure. I will rub that out before I take the photograph, rub out his second set of legs, because most birds don't have 4 legs. And yeah, so there we are. We could, if you wanted to, you could come in and put lots of kind of parallel lines for veins and things on these leaves. But I think that's probably enough work on that for one day. And I will hold this up for you to see. So there you are. I should probably take the tape off, because it doesn't ever enhance a painting when it's got tape around the outside edge. That's a good point. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you give it a try. It's much easier than it looks. I will do a tracing. I'll do a tracing of the outline of the branches of the leaves for you, branches of the tree for you, not the leaves themselves. I'll just give you the skeleton, and you can put the leaves on with their twiglets and their birds as you wish. Okay, so look after yourselves, take care, and don't forget, do lots of painting. And I'll see you again soon. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.